Welcome to Second Take, the show that focuses on the issues behind the news. Growth potential for platinum is emerging in the rapid build-up of a low base of fuel cell electric vehicle sales. Martin Creamer tells us more. Welcome, Martin.
Oh, Sashnee.
Now, fuel cell vehicle sales are expected to grow by 200% this year, and China and Japan have targets. Can you tell us about this?
Yeah, it's incredible how the build-up is really reaching a climactic point between what we call battery-driven electric vehicles, the BEV, and the fuel cell-driven electric vehicles. Of course, I'm cheering for the fuel cell electric vehicle because it means there's a lot more of our platinum that stands to be used. But we'll also cheer for the battery electric vehicle because of the manganese that goes into the lithium-ion battery there. But it seems as though there is a path for both of them. It looks like the battery electric vehicle will be in the smaller ranges, and it'll probably be in the car that you jump into to go and pick up some eggs at the cafe. And then you can charge it maybe around the corner at an easy plug-in point, and when you get home you can leave it overnight. And then the bigger vehicles with the bigger ranges and the bigger cars and the buses and the trams and you know, the planes, even trains and planes, those are candidates for the fuel cell, which is catalyzed by platinum, which is found in the ground of Southern Africa and mainly in South Africa. So we want that to really move, and it does seem the superior option, because I think when Germany embraces something, you know that they've done their homework, and they've done their homework quite sincerely into the new hydrogen age. And they are preparing infrastructure which will enable you to, in a few minutes, fill up with hydrogen in your vehicle in the same way as you pull up to a filling station now and you go to the pump and they put petrol in or diesel in. It won't be a massive departure from what we've used to. And it also won't be a massive departure because the range is large, you know, like 400, 500 kilometer range. So if you going down to the Free State or something, you know that you're fine, provided of course there are hydrogen facilities on the other side. So it does now depend heavily on the infrastructure being put in. We see that Germany is planning to put in hundreds of these hydrogen filling stations by early 20s. California is another part of America which is a bit different because they've embraced this fuel cell electric vehicle. Their eyes really aren't that focused on the Tesla as they are on some of the new models that are coming out of the likes of even Mercedes now, which has got a hybrid which also has an electric battery situation. So a battery electric vehicle. It's a battery electric vehicle that's going to come out plus a hydrogen fuel cell vehicle, so a fuel cell electric vehicle all in one. So you can, if you have a short-term need, you can plug in and you've still got that longer range. We see now China orders for 18,000 buses. We know that Ballard has been working on these fuel cell buses for a long time. And we can see that if China embraces this, and then Japan as well, but mainly China, with that population and with the central control, the command economy, they can set the pace. We've seen them set the pace now in solar power. They're coming through with those cheap panels, and it suddenly changed the face of stationary electricity cost. It's coming down to 4 cents a kilowatt hour. People are saying, gee whiz, this is the cheapest we've got. So it'll be interesting to see how far they go there. You find they're not talking too much about stationary fuel cells. We heard about that Japan had put in about 5 million stationary fuel cells in flats in Japan, which means that you've got like a power station in your kitchen. They don't talk too much about that. I don't know whether that's still as competitive as it was. But certainly when it comes to mobility, they're looking to have not only the battery electric vehicle, but also the fuel cell electric vehicle. And you can see that coming off a low base, these percentages are big, like 200% growth. So it's because it's starting off from a low base, but at last it's starting.
And what is Amplats doing about the demand for platinum?
Well, the demand for platinum needs to be built. It's got to be marketed. And I remember 30 years ago when I went into the old Johannesburg Consolidated Investments, they were the custodians at that stage of our platinum riches. And you could never get anything out of them about platinum because it was done very secretively in those days, except marketing. There they would be prepared to sit you down and talk to you how you've got to market this. You've got to get this platinum into the autocatalytic converters. It's got to then stop the emissions that are dirty from going into the air of the cities. And that has been a big function of platinum and still is in these big cities where with diesel particularly and other platinum group metals, they make sure that the air of London is clean as it can be in the circumstances. Obviously, you saw London last night making an announcement. By 2040, they don't want any diesel in London. They don't want any petrol in London. So you can see that the cities are starting to put their foot down. I think that's where we need to market now. The platinum guys need to really go in on an advocacy push. They have got this Hydrogen Council now. They have got, various bodies that push platinum. They need to do it very skillfully now because time is running out. Platinum was way ahead of the battery electric vehicle, but they fell asleep at the wheel. I think they had so many distractions in South Africa. They allowed those distractions to get their eye off the ball. Now's the time to really move in there and make sure. So they've got various plans. I think they're spending amounts which, when you look at them, they're fairly moderate, but I'm sure if I was spending them, I'd find them a lot, like, $38 million going into projects that make use of platinum. It might be related to hydrogen because, you need to have the hydrogen made safe. How do you make the hydrogen safe? They say they've cracked the code by turning it into a liquid. And so that is one of the projects they've been working on. There are also several other projects, energy related, that make use of platinum group metals, maybe not necessarily platinum. And there's also micro gas conversion. They're talking about gas to liquids. Maybe that's similarly related to the hydrogen. And they have given us a list in the past of what they're working on, but we need to get an update on that again for the detail. But by now, some of those projects must be reaching fruition. So they'll either decide to go ahead with them or not going ahead, depending on whether they're safe or whether they're successful or not.
And what is Amplat's plan around the recovery of copper and cobalt? Yes,
so you've got these situations in the processing of our platinum ore. They put it through a pyrometallurgical process, which many people are looking at critically and saying, it requires too much electricity, 1,300 degrees Celsius. There are other ways to do this, hydrometallurgical ways, chemical ways, where you don't need any of that level of energy, electricity, so your costs come down. And at the same time, you're not destroying some of the elements inside that platinum. And the notable one at the moment is the cobalt. We know that cobalt's price has rocketed by about 76% in the first half of this year. We know that people are worried about the sources of cobalt coming in from Africa because sometimes there is child employment and there's illegal mining and they don't want to be associated with that. So there's an opportunity to try and add to the co-products that you get when you process this platinum. You're wanting to get your platinum, palladium, and sometimes they get nickel. And they also want to try and take steps now to get more of this cobalt and maybe even look at a hydrometallurgical route that could make sure that they don't destroy it. And at the same time, they've got a copper project because there's also copper possibilities. And we know that the price of copper is very promising. And we know that copper is an old metal, but also a new tech metal because all these new Teslas and the solar power and your laptop and even the power coming into your house. You need that copper. So it's surviving the new tech era, as we were surprised with manganese. Also, not just steel, also associated with the lithium-ion battery. So they're trying to make sure that they can recover that as well, because platinum pricing at the moment is negative. They spoke of 70% of the industry being loss-making. And in a situation like that, it's very bad for a southern hemisphere country to produce things at a loss and put them into the rich north. That doesn't make sense. So what Amplats is saying is we have got a small amount of loss-making ounces now, which will be phased out. But we've got rid of a lot of our loss-making ounces. So that's why they're not such huge protagonists of cutting production, because they feel they don't have loss makers and they would like the rest of the industry to cut out the loss makers. When you're making losses like that, you look everywhere, and two of the things they're looking at is cobalt and copper to try and increase that basket price. When you add them all together, you start being viable again.
Thanks for speaking with us, Martin.
A great pleasure, Sashnee.
That's it for today. Join us again next week for more news and analysis on South Africa's mining industry.